The smell hit Michael Kennedy the moment Meadow walked through the door. Smoke. Not cigarette smoke. Something different. Wood smoke mixed with something else he couldn't quite identify. It clung to her clothes, her hair, her skin. "Hey, honey," Meadow said, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter. "How was your day?" Michael studied his wife's face. She looked tired, more than tired, exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Long," he replied. "Yours?" "The usual." Meadow headed straight for the stairs. "I'm going to take a shower." She always took a shower immediately after coming home. Every single day for the past 6 weeks. Michael had started noticing patterns. Meadow left for work at her normal time, 8 a.m., but she didn't come home until almost 9 p.m., 13 hours. Her job as a real estate agent had never required such long hours before. And then there was the smell. Always that smoke. Michael walked to the counter where Meadow had left her purse. He stared at it. He could open it right now, check her phone, look for receipts, find answers. But that would mean he didn't trust her. After 12 years of marriage, trust was supposed to be sacred. Except trust was getting harder to maintain when your wife came home reeking of smoke every single night. He heard the shower running upstairs. The water would run for at least 20 minutes. Meadow had never been one for long showers before. Now it was like she was trying to wash away something more than just the day's dirt. Michael's phone buzzed. A text from his best friend David. "Did you talk to her yet?" Michael had confided in David 2 weeks ago. David's response had been immediate and direct. "Man, you need to follow her. See where she's really going." But following your own wife felt like crossing a line. It felt like admitting your marriage was broken. Michael typed back, "Not yet. Soon." The shower stopped. Michael moved away from Meadow's purse and busied himself with making dinner. When Meadow came downstairs 15 minutes later, her hair was wet, and she'd changed into comfortable clothes. The smell was gone, washed away, temporarily hidden. They ate dinner, mostly in silence. Meadow pushed food around her plate more than she ate it. "Everything okay?" Michael asked. Meadow looked up, startled. "Yeah, just tired. I had 3 showings today and the market's been tough." 3 showings that took 13 hours? Meadow's fork paused halfway to her mouth. There was paperwork, phone calls. You know how it is. Michael nodded, but he didn't know, because nothing about this felt right. After dinner, Meadow went to bed early. By 9:30, she was asleep, or pretending to be. Michael sat in the living room staring at nothing, his mind racing with possibilities he didn't want to consider. Was she having an affair? The smoke could be from someone else's fireplace. A secret apartment somewhere. Another life she was living. Was she in trouble? Gambling, drugs, something illegal that required secrecy and left her smelling like she'd been standing next to a bonfire. Was she sick? Maybe the stress of hiding an illness was making her act strangely. Michael pulled out his laptop and searched reasons why someone would smell like smoke every day. The results weren't helpful. Cigarettes, cigars, fireplaces, campfires, house fires, barbecues. Nothing that explained why a real estate agent would come home smelling like a forest fire 6 days a week. He closed the laptop and made a decision. Tomorrow, he would follow her. The next morning, Michael woke up before his alarm. Meadow was already in the shower. By the time he got downstairs, she was dressed for work in her usual professional attire. Black pants, white blouse, blazer. She looked like any other real estate agent heading out for a day of showings. "I might be late again tonight," Meadow said, grabbing her purse. "Big potential client." "How late?" 8:30, maybe 9. Michael nodded. "Good luck with the client." Meadow kissed him quickly and left. Michael watched from the window as she got in her car and drove away. Then he grabbed his keys and followed. He stayed 3 cars back, feeling ridiculous and guilty and terrified all at once. This was his wife, the woman he'd married 12 years ago, the person he trusted most in the world. And here he was, following her like she was a stranger. Meadow's car headed toward downtown Seattle. Michael expected her to go to her real estate office. Instead, she drove past it and kept going. She took the highway north, driving for almost 40 minutes. Michael's confusion grew with every mile. Where was she going? This wasn't anywhere near the neighborhoods she usually worked in. Finally, Meadow's car exited the highway. They were in a semi-rural area now. Fewer buildings, more trees. She turned down a side road, then another. Michael dropped back further, worried she'd notice him. Meadow's car pulled into a gravel driveway. Michael drove past, then pulled over 100 yards down the road. He got out and walked back, staying in the tree line. The property Meadow had entered was unusual. It looked like an old farm, but there were several outbuildings and what appeared to be a large workshop. Smoke was rising from behind one of the buildings. Not thick smoke, but steady, like something was burning constantly. Michael crept closer, his heart pounding. He could see Meadow's car parked near the main building. She was nowhere in sight. He heard voices. Moving carefully, Michael positioned himself behind a large oak tree where he could see the backyard area. What he saw made no sense. Meadow was there, but she wasn't dressed in her work clothes anymore. She wore heavy canvas pants, a thick apron, and work gloves. Her hair was tied back, and she was wielding a massive hammer, bringing it down onto something on an anvil. She was metalworking, blacksmithing. Michael stared, unable to process what he was seeing. His wife, the real estate agent, was hammering red-hot metal like she'd been doing it her entire life. An older man, maybe in his 60s, stood nearby watching her work. He said something Michael couldn't hear. Meadow nodded, examined the piece she was working on, then placed it back in what Michael now recognized as a forge. That explained the smoke. She was working with a coal forge. But why? Why was Meadow, who had never shown any interest in metalwork, spending her days secretly blacksmithing in a workshop 40 minutes from home? Michael watched for another 20 minutes as Meadow worked. She was good. Her movements were confident and precise. This wasn't a beginner fumbling through a new hobby. This was someone who had been practicing, learning, dedicating serious time to developing a skill. Before we continue with the story, please subscribe to my channel. It takes just 1 second, but it means the world to me and helps me continue creating stories you love. Also, tap that like button. It really helps other people discover this channel. And drop a comment telling me what city or country you're watching from. Now let's get back to Michael's discovery, because what happens next changes everything. Michael's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out carefully. A text from his boss. "Where are you? Meeting started 10 minutes ago." Michael cursed under his breath. He'd completely forgotten about his morning meeting. He looked back at the workshop. Meadow was still working, completely absorbed in her task. He needed to leave. He needed to think about what he'd seen. He needed to figure out how to confront her about this secret life she'd been living. Michael made his way back to his car and drove to work. He spent the entire day distracted, barely able to focus on anything. His colleagues noticed. "You okay, man?" his coworker Jason asked during lunch. "You seem out of it." "Just didn't sleep well," Michael lied. But sleep had nothing to do with it. His mind was spinning with questions. How long had Meadow been doing this? Why hadn't she told him? What did it mean that she felt she had to hide an entire hobby from him? That evening, Michael got home before Meadow. He sat in the living room, practicing what he would say. Should he admit he followed her? Should he pretend to know nothing and give her a chance to tell him the truth? At 8:45, the front door opened. Meadow walked in, and there it was. That smoke smell. Now Michael knew exactly what it was. The smell of coal forge fire, of hot metal, of hard work. "Hi," Meadow said, setting down her purse. Same routine as always. "How was your day?" This was his moment. Michael could ask her directly. He could end this charade right now. Instead, he heard himself say, "Fine, how was yours?" Meadow gave him a tired smile. "Long, I'm going to shower." Michael watched her go upstairs and he hated himself for not saying anything. But something stopped him. Maybe it was fear of what her answer would mean. Maybe it was curiosity about how long she'd keep up the lie. Or maybe, deep down, he wanted to understand why she felt the need to hide this before he confronted her about it. The next morning, Michael called in sick to work. When Meadow left for her supposed real estate showings, he followed her again. Same route, same workshop, same secret life. This time, Michael parked closer. He found a spot where he could see more of what Meadow was doing. She worked for hours, stopping only for water breaks. The older man, her teacher, Michael assumed, would occasionally demonstrate techniques or examine her work. Around noon, a woman arrived. She was younger, maybe in her 30s, carrying what looked like a portfolio. Meadow stopped working and met with her. They looked at drawings together, pointing at various sketches. Michael realized Meadow was taking commissions. She wasn't just learning blacksmithing as a hobby. She was creating pieces for clients. This was serious. This was a business. His phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen. Michael answered quietly. "Hey, did you follow her?" "Yeah. And? Don't leave me hanging, man. What's she doing?" Michael hesitated, then said, "She's a blacksmith." Silence on the other end. Then, "She's a what?" "A blacksmith. She's been secretly learning metalwork. She has a workshop, a teacher, clients. She's been building an entire business without telling me." "That's not what I expected," David admitted. "I mean, at least she's not cheating on you." "Why wouldn't she just tell me?" Michael asked, the hurt clear in his voice. "Why hide something like this?" "I don't know, man. But you need to ask her. Actually talk to her." Michael knew David was right, but he continued watching. He needed to see more. He needed to understand this secret world Meadow had built before he could confront her about it. By the end of the day, Meadow had completed what looked like a decorative gate. It was beautiful, intricate scrollwork that must have taken weeks to plan and execute. She stood back, examining it with a critical eye, then smiled. A genuine, proud smile that Michael hadn't seen on her face in months. When had his wife stopped smiling like that at home? When had she stopped sharing her accomplishments, her pride, her passion? Michael drove home before Meadow, his mind full of more questions than answers. One thing was clear. His wife had found something that made her happy, something she was good at, something she loved enough to lie about. The question was, why she felt she had to lie about it to him. That night, Michael decided to do something different. After Meadow came home and took her usual long shower, after they ate dinner in their usual near silence, he broke the pattern. "Meadow, can we talk?" She looked up from her phone, surprised. "Of course. About what?" Michael chose his words carefully. "About us. About how we've been lately. We barely talk anymore. You're always exhausted. I feel like we're drifting apart." Meadow's expression shifted. Guilt, maybe, or sadness. She set her phone down. "I know," she said quietly. "I'm sorry. Things have just been really busy with work." "Is it just work?" Michael pressed gently. "Or is there something else going on?" For a moment, he thought she might tell him. Her mouth opened and he saw the words forming, but then she closed it and shook her head. "It's just work. The real estate market is demanding right now. I'm trying to build up my client base." The lie sat between them like a physical thing. Michael could feel it, heavy and wrong, but he didn't call her out. Not yet. "Maybe you should take a break," he suggested. "We could go away for a weekend, just the two of us. Remember how we used to take those spontaneous trips?" Meadow's eyes softened. "That sounds nice, but I can't right now. I have too many commitments. Maybe in a few months?" "A few months. How many more months of secrets? How many more lies?" Michael nodded. "Okay, just know that I'm here. If you need to talk about anything, I'm here." Meadow reached across and squeezed his hand. "I know. Thank you." But she still didn't tell him. Over the next week, Michael followed Meadow 3 more times. Each time he learned more about her secret life. He learned that she'd been studying blacksmithing for 8 months, not 6 weeks. She'd been lying far longer than he realized. She started with weekend classes, then moved to daily sessions. She told him she was attending real estate seminars and networking events. He learned that she was talented, really talented. The older man, Michael had learned his name was Robert, a master blacksmith with 40 years of experience, treated Meadow like a serious apprentice, not a hobbyist. He learned that Meadow had started selling her work. The decorative gate was commissioned by a local restaurant. She'd also made custom fireplace tools, garden sculptures, and architectural elements. People were paying real money for her creations, And he learned that when Meadow was working metal, she was happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy, in a way Michael hadn't seen in years. That realization hurt more than the lies. His wife had found something that brought her joy, and she'd felt she couldn't share it with him. On Friday evening, Michael was sitting in his car down the road from the workshop when David called again. "You're still following her?" David sounded incredulous. "Dude, it's been over a week. Just confront her already." "I will," Michael said. "I just need to understand first." "Understand what?" "She's hiding a blacksmithing business from you. What's there to understand?" "She's lying. That's bad. Talk to her. End of story." "It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple," David insisted. "You're overthinking this. Go home. Wait for her to arrive and say, 'Hey, I know about the blacksmithing. Why didn't you tell me?' Done." Michael rubbed his eyes. What if she has a good reason? What possible good reason could there be for lying to your husband for 8 months? That was the question Michael kept asking himself, and he couldn't come up with an answer that made sense. "I have to go," Michael said. "Meadow's packing up." He watched as Meadow cleaned her tools and said goodbye to Robert. She changed back into her work clothes in what Michael now knew was a small bathroom in the main building. By the time she got in her car, she looked like the real estate agent everyone knew. The blacksmith was hidden again. Michael followed her home, maintaining his distance. But this time, instead of beating her there, he stayed close. He wanted to see if she did anything else before going inside. Meadow parked in their driveway and sat in her car for almost 5 minutes. Michael watched from down the street. She was on her phone, but he couldn't see who she was talking to. Finally, she got out, grabbed her purse and headed inside. Michael waited another 5 minutes, then went in. "Sorry I'm late," he called out. "Traffic was terrible." Meadow appeared from the kitchen. "No problem. I just got home myself. I was thinking we could order Chinese food tonight. I'm too tired to cook." Another normal evening. Another layer of deception. They ordered food and ate while watching a documentary about ocean life. Meadow fell asleep on the couch halfway through. Michael looked at her peaceful face and wondered how many versions of his wife existed. The real estate agent, the blacksmith, the wife. Which one was real? Were any of them? The next morning was Saturday. Meadow slept in, which was unusual. When she finally came downstairs at 10 a.m., she looked more rested than she had in weeks. "I don't have to work today," she announced. "Let's do something together. We could go hiking or visit that new art gallery downtown." Michael was surprised. "Really? You're taking a day off?" "Robert gave me the day off," Meadow said, then froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. "I mean, my client Robert. He canceled our meeting, so I'm free." The ship hung in the air. Meadow tried to recover, but Michael saw the panic in her eyes. "This client, Robert," Michael said carefully. "You work with him a lot?" "Not that much. He's just, he's thinking about buying a property, and we've been doing consultations." The lie was so transparent now that Michael could barely stand it, but he nodded and said, "The art gallery sounds great." They spent the day together, and it was almost like old times. They held hands walking through the gallery. They had lunch at a small cafe. They talked about the art, about their families, about a vacation they wanted to take to Japan someday. For those few hours, Meadow seemed lighter. The weight she'd been carrying lifted. She laughed at Michael's jokes. She leaned into him when they walked. She was present in a way she hadn't been in months. It made Michael realize how much he'd missed her. Not just her physical presence, but her, the woman he married, the person who used to share everything with him. That evening, as they cooked dinner together, something they hadn't done in weeks, Michael made a decision. Tomorrow, he would talk to Robert. He needed to understand why Meadow had chosen blacksmithing, why she'd kept it secret, what it meant to her. And maybe Robert could give him insights Meadow couldn't or wouldn't share. Sunday morning, after Meadow left for her supposed open house, Michael drove to the workshop. He'd memorized the route by now. When he arrived, Robert was already there, preparing the forge. Michael got out of his car and walked directly to the workshop entrance. Robert looked up, surprised to see someone approaching. "Can I help you?" Robert asked, wiping his hands on his apron. My name is Michael Kennedy, Michael said. I'm Meadow's husband. Robert's expression changed immediately. Understanding, concern, and something else Michael couldn't quite identify crossed his face. She doesn't know you're here, does she? Robert said. No, I've been following her. I know about the blacksmithing, the apprenticeship, all of it. What I don't know is why she's been lying to me about it. Robert sighed deeply and gestured to a workbench. Sit down. We should talk. They sat on rough wooden stools. The forge crackled nearby, filling the air with warmth and the smell of burning coal. How much has Meadow told you about her childhood? Robert asked. Michael frowned. Everything, I thought. Why? Did she tell you about her father? Her father left when she was 10. It devastated her family. She hasn't seen him since. Robert nodded slowly. Did she tell you what he did for a living? He was in construction or something. I don't think she knows much about his work. He was a blacksmith, Robert said quietly. One of the best I ever knew. We worked together for 15 years before he disappeared. Michael felt the ground shift beneath him. What? Meadow's father, Thomas Kennedy, was my business partner. This was his workshop. We built it together, ran it together. Then one day he told me he had to leave. He didn't explain. He just packed up his tools and vanished. Meadow was 10. I didn't see him again for 20 years. Michael's mind raced. Meadow never mentioned any of this. She probably didn't know. Thomas asked me to never contact his family. He said it was safer that way. I respected his wishes, even though it killed me to cut ties with them. Safer from what? Robert shook his head. That's Thomas's story to tell, not mine. But 3 years ago, he came back. He'd been sick, wanted to make amends before it was too late. He reached out to Meadow. 3 years ago? Michael thought back. That was when Meadow had gone through what she called a rough patch. She'd been distant, emotional, taking long drives by herself. She'd said it was work stress. She met with him? Several times. They had a lot to work through, a lot of pain. But eventually they reconciled. Thomas taught her some basic metalworking before he died. Wait, he died? 2 years ago. Cancer. Meadow was with him at the end. Michael felt like he'd been punched. She never told me. I had no idea. Thomas made her promise not to tell anyone. He was still hiding from something, even at the end. After he died, Meadow inherited his tools. She asked if I would teach her his craft. She wanted to connect with him, understand the passion that had driven him, the art form he'd loved more than his own family, or so she thought. Robert stood and walked to a far corner of the workshop. He pulled out a large piece covered with a tarp and brought it over. This is what Meadow's been working on, he said, removing the tarp. Michael stared at the sculpture. It was a tree, 4 feet tall, made entirely of forged metal. Every leaf was individually crafted. The branches twisted naturally, reaching upward, and carved into the trunk were names: Meadow Kennedy, Thomas Kennedy, Margaret Kennedy, Meadow's mother, and Michael Kennedy. It's a family tree, Robert explained. She's been working on it for 8 months. Every leaf represents a memory of her father. Every branch, a part of their story she learned too late. The roots are embedded in a base that includes soil from his grave. Michael couldn't speak. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, but more than that, the emotion embedded in every detail was overwhelming. She planned to give it to you, Robert continued, on your anniversary next month. She wanted to finally tell you everything. About her father, about the reconciliation she had with him before he died, about discovering this part of herself she didn't know existed. Why didn't she just tell me? Michael asked, his voice breaking. Why keep all of this secret? Robert sat back down. She was ashamed that she'd hidden her father's return from you, ashamed that she'd reconnected with the man who abandoned her family. And then he died, and she felt guilty for mourning a father who'd caused so much pain. She thought you'd judge her, or worse, that you'd think she was betraying her mother's memory. Michael touched the metal tree, feeling the cool surface of each carefully hammered leaf. I would never judge her for that. That's what I told her. But fear and shame aren't rational. She convinced herself that she had to complete this journey alone. Master this craft her father loved. Create something beautiful from all that pain. Then she could present it to you as proof that something good came from all the secrets. She should have trusted me. Yes, Robert agreed. She should have. And I think she knows that now. The weight of carrying this alone has been destroying her. I've watched her struggle with it every day. Michael stood, still staring at the tree. His wife's pain, his father-in-law's legacy, 8 months of lies, all forged into metal. When is she coming today? Michael asked. Any minute now. Good, I'll wait. Michael heard Meadow's car pull up 15 minutes later. He positioned himself in the workshop where she'd see him immediately when she walked in. The door opened. Meadow stepped inside, already pulling off her blazer. She froze when she saw Michael standing next to the covered sculpture. Michael? Her face went pale. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, Michael said calmly, but I already know the answer. Meadow's eyes darted to Robert, who stood off to the side. You told him? He followed you, Robert said gently. He's known for over a week. Meadow's legs seemed to give out. She grabbed the doorframe for support. You've been following me? You've been lying to me, Michael countered. For 8 months. Tears spilled down Meadow's cheeks. I can explain. Then explain, please, because I've been trying to understand why my wife would build an entire secret life and I can't figure it out. Meadow wiped her face with shaking hands. She looked at Robert, who nodded encouragingly, then back at Michael. My father came back, she whispered. 3 years ago, he just showed up at my office one day. The man who abandoned us, who destroyed my mother, who made my entire childhood about his absence. He was there, asking for forgiveness. Michael listened, his anger softening as he watched his wife's pain. I was so angry, Meadow continued. I told him to leave. I said he had no right to come back after all those years. But he kept coming back, week after week. He'd wait outside my office, never approaching, just being there. Finally, I agreed to talk to him. She walked further into the workshop, her fingers trailing along the workbench. He told me about his life, why he left. He'd gotten involved with some dangerous people. He owed them money. They threatened our family. The only way to keep us safe was to disappear completely. So he did. He left everything, his work, his family, his identity. He started over in another state, working construction jobs under a fake name, always looking over his shoulder. Michael moved closer to her. Meadow, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed, she sobbed. Ashamed that I was even talking to him. My mother died 5 years ago without ever forgiving him. And here I was, meeting with him secretly, listening to his excuses. What kind of daughter does that? A daughter who needed answers, Michael said softly. He was dying, Meadow continued. Cancer. He had maybe a year. He wanted to teach me about his craft, the thing he'd loved most besides our family. He said if he couldn't give me back the years we lost, he could at least give me this piece of himself. She walked to the metal tree and ran her hand over the trunk. We met 3 times a week for 6 months. He taught me basic metalwork. We talked about everything, his life, my childhood, the choices he made. I got to know him. And Michael, I loved him. Despite everything, I loved my father. Her voice broke completely. Michael went to her and pulled her into his arms. She clung to him, crying into his chest. He died 2 years ago, she whispered. I was holding his hand. His last words were an apology to my mother. Then he was gone. Michael held her tighter, feeling her pain as his own. I should have told you, Meadow said. I wanted to, but I'd already kept it secret for so long. And then after he died, I felt so guilty. Guilty for forgiving him when my mother never did. Guilty for mourning him when he'd caused so much damage. Guilty for keeping it from you. She pulled back and looked at him. I thought if I could master his craft, create something beautiful from all this pain, then maybe it would make sense. Maybe I could show you that something good came from all the lies. Show me what? Michael asked. Meadow gestured to the covered sculpture. This. I've been working on it since he died. It's my family tree, our family tree. Past, present, and future, all forged together. Michael had already seen it, but he let Meadow uncover it herself. She pulled off the tarp with trembling hands. Every leaf is a memory, she explained. Some are my father's memories that he shared with me. Some are my own memories of life without him. Some are memories of us, you and me, the family we've built. The roots contain soil from his grave mixed with soil from our garden at home. Past and present, pain and joy, all connected. Michael examined the tree more closely now. He saw leaves engraved with dates and tiny images. Their wedding day, Meadow's college graduation, her father's workshop, a small girl crying, a man walking away, a couple holding hands. Life and loss captured in metal. It's incredible, Michael said honestly. You're incredibly talented. I learned from the best, Meadow said. Robert was patient with me. He knew my father better than I ever did. Teaching me was his way of honoring his friend's memory. Robert spoke up from where he'd been quietly working. Your father would be proud, Meadow, not just of your skill, but of the strength it took to face this pain and transform it into art. Meadow smiled through her tears. Thank you, Robert, for everything. Michael took Meadow's hands. I understand why you kept this secret. I don't agree with it, but I understand. What I don't understand is why you couldn't trust me with your pain. We're supposed to face difficult things together. I know, Meadow said. I was wrong. I was so caught up in my own guilt and shame that I forgot we're a team. I forgot that you love me, not because I'm perfect, but because we've chosen to build a life together. I do love you, Michael said. But Meadow, we can't have secrets like this. Not anymore. If we're going to make this marriage work, we have to trust each other with the hard stuff, the messy, complicated, painful stuff. You're right. I promise. No more secrets. They stood holding each other in the workshop, surrounded by tools and fire and the smell of burning coal. The smell that had started this whole mystery. So what happens now? Meadow asked. With the blacksmithing, I mean. I know I've been spending too much time here. I can cut back, focus more on real estate, on us. Michael shook his head. Don't cut back. This is your passion. You're good at it. You should keep pursuing it. But my job. Quit your job, Michael said. If you hate real estate that much, quit. Do blacksmithing full-time. Meadow looked shocked. Michael, that's crazy. We need my income. We have a mortgage, bills, savings goals. We'll figure it out. Maybe you don't make as much at first doing metal work. We'll adjust. We'll budget better. But Meadow, I've watched you working here. He paused, then admitted, I've been following you for over a week. I've seen how alive you are when you're creating. I haven't seen you that happy in years. Meadow stared at him. You really followed me? Every day. I was terrified of what I'd find. An affair, an addiction, something terrible. Finding out you were a secret blacksmith was the best-case scenario. Despite everything, Meadow laughed. I'm sorry for putting you through that. I'm sorry for not being someone you felt safe confiding in. They both acknowledged their part in the breakdown of trust. It wasn't just Meadow's lies or Michael's surveillance. It was a gradual drift, a slow erosion of intimacy that made secrets seem necessary. Robert cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt, but I have an idea. Meadow, what if you didn't quit real estate entirely? What if you combined both careers? They both looked at him. Architectural metalwork is a lucrative field, Robert explained. Designers, builders, architects, they all need custom metal pieces. Gates, railings, fixtures, decorative elements. You could market yourself to high-end real estate clients. Custom metalwork that increases property value. Meadow's eyes lit up. That could work. I have contacts in the real estate world. I know luxury property owners who would pay for custom pieces. You could even offer it as a service, Michael added, getting excited. Exclusive architectural metalwork for properties you list. A unique selling point. I'd need a better setup, Meadow said, looking around the workshop. Proper business licensing, insurance, a website. You could work from home, Michael suggested. We have that big backyard. We could build a workshop there. Then you wouldn't have to commute, and I could actually see you doing what you love instead of following you around like a stalker." They all laughed, releasing some of the tension. Over the next hour, they made plans. Meadow would transition from full-time real estate to consulting while building her metalwork business. Michael would help with the business side, marketing, bookkeeping, logistics. Robert would continue mentoring her and help establish connections in the architectural metalwork community. "There's one more thing," Meadow said, looking at Michael nervously. "The tree. I made it for our anniversary, but I want you to have it now. No more waiting, no more secrets." Michael walked around the sculpture, taking in every detail. "It's the most meaningful gift anyone has ever given me, but Meadow, this belongs to both of us. It's our family tree. It goes in our home where we can both see it every day." Meadow smiled, relief washing over her face. "I was hoping you'd say that. I was thinking the living room, by the big window where the light hits in the morning." "Perfect," Michael agreed. "But there's something missing." Meadow frowned. "What do you mean?" Michael pointed to the branches. "There's room for more leaves, more memories we haven't made yet, more family we haven't added yet." Meadow's breath caught. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying this tree has room to grow, just like our family." Michael took her hands. "We've talked about having kids someday. Maybe someday should be soon." Tears filled Meadow's eyes again, but this time they were happy tears. "I'd like that. I'd really like that." Robert coughed politely. "I'm going to step outside and give you two some privacy. Meadow, take the rest of the week off. Spend time with your husband. The metalwork will be here when you get back." "Thank you, Robert," Meadow said, hugging him. "For everything. For teaching me. For honoring my father's memory. For being patient with my mess." "It's been my honor," Robert said. "Your father would be so proud of the woman you've become. And Michael, thank you for being understanding. Not every husband would react this way." After Robert left, Michael and Meadow sat together on the workbench, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects. "I have to ask," Michael said, "why did you always shower immediately when you got home? That's actually what first made me suspicious." Meadow laughed. "The smoke smell. It gets into everything. My hair, my clothes, my skin. I didn't want you asking questions about why I smelled like a campfire every night. So I'd shower it all away before you could notice." "I noticed anyway. That's what started this whole thing. I should have known you'd figure it out eventually. You always notice the details." "Usually," Michael said, "but I missed the most important detail. I missed that my wife was hurting, that she was carrying this huge weight alone." Meadow leaned her head on his shoulder. "I didn't make it easy for you to notice. I got really good at hiding." "No more hiding," Michael said firmly. "From now on, we tell each other the truth, even when it's hard, even when it's scary. Deal?" "Deal." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Meadow said, "You know what's funny? I was planning this big reveal for our anniversary. I had this whole speech prepared about my father, the metalwork, everything. I was going to bring you here, show you the tree, and explain it all. I practiced what I'd say like 100 times." "What were you going to say?" Meadow thought for a moment. "I was going to tell you that I'd been lost, that for years I'd been doing what was expected, the practical job, the responsible choices, the safe path. But reconnecting with my father's craft showed me who I really am. And I was going to ask if you could love this version of me, the one who wants to work with fire and metal, the one who needs to create with her hands." Michael pulled her closer. "Meadow, I fell in love with you because of who you are, not what you do. Real estate agent, blacksmith, astronaut, I don't care. I care about you being happy and fulfilled. And if making metal art does that for you, then I'm your biggest supporter. Even if it means less money and more risk, even then, we'll figure it out together." Meadow kissed him deeply. "I love you so much. I'm sorry I doubted that." "I love you too. And I'm sorry I followed you around like a paranoid detective instead of just asking you what was going on." They both laughed at the absurdity of the past few weeks. All that worry and fear, and the truth was actually beautiful. We should probably get home, Meadow said. We have a lot to talk about. Business plans, baby plans, workshop construction plans. And we need to figure out how to transport that tree, Michael added. It's not exactly going to fit in the back seat. They made arrangements with Robert to borrow his truck the next day. As they drove home together, Meadow's hand in Michael's, the smoke smell faint but no longer mysterious. Everything felt different, lighter, more honest. That evening, they sat at their kitchen table with notebooks and laptops, planning Meadow's future business. They researched workshop construction costs, business licenses, insurance requirements, and marketing strategies. We should call it Kennedy Metalworks, Michael suggested. Honor your father's legacy. Meadow considered it. What about Thomas Kennedy Legacy Metalworks? Make it explicit. Every piece I create carries his story. That's perfect. They worked late into the night, excited about the possibilities. Around midnight, Meadow looked at the clock and laughed. What? Michael asked. I'm so used to being in the workshop at midnight. It feels weird to be home with you instead. Get used to it, Michael said, pulling her close. Your midnight mysteries are over. From now on, if you're up at midnight, I'm up with you. We're in this together. The next few weeks transformed their lives. They hired a contractor to build a workshop in their backyard. Meadow gave notice at her real estate firm, transitioning to part-time consulting. She launched a website for Thomas Kennedy Legacy Metalworks, featuring photos of her pieces and her father's story. The response was overwhelming. Within days, she had inquiries from architects, interior designers, and private clients. The combination of her real estate connections and the emotional story behind her work created a unique market position. Michael handled the business side, freeing Meadow to focus on creating. He scheduled consultations, managed finances, and dealt with suppliers. They worked as a true team, complementing each other's strengths. David came over one Saturday to see the new workshop. He stood in the doorway, shaking his head in amazement. Man, when you told me she was a secret blacksmith, I thought you were losing it, but this is actually incredible. Meadow, wearing her work apron and safety goggles, grinned. Want to try? I can teach you to make a bottle opener. Seriously? Seriously, come on. Michael watched as Meadow taught David the basics of heating metal and shaping it on the anvil. She was a natural teacher, patient and encouraging. David's bottle opener was crude but functional, and he was absurdly proud of it. I made this with my own hands, David kept saying. I actually made this. That's the magic of it, Meadow explained. Taking raw metal and transforming it into something useful or beautiful. It's primal and satisfying in a way that desk work never is. After David left, Michael helped Meadow clean up the workshop. You're really good at teaching, he observed. Have you thought about offering classes? Meadow paused, considering. Actually, I have. Robert suggested it too. Weekend workshops for beginners. It could be another revenue stream. And a way to share your father's legacy with more people. Meadow smiled. I like that idea. Dad would have loved teaching. Maybe this is a way to let his passion live on. 3 months after the truth came out, Meadow and Michael hosted a gallery showing at a local art space. They displayed Meadow's work alongside photos of her father's pieces that Robert had preserved. The turnout was impressive. Real estate colleagues, potential clients, friends, family, and curious art lovers. Jennifer's mother's sister, Aunt Marie, flew in from California. She walked through the gallery with tears streaming down her face. Your father made that, she said, pointing to a photo of an ornate gate Thomas had created 30 years earlier. I remember when he finished it. He was so proud. Your mother was proud too before everything fell apart. Meadow hugged her aunt. Do you think Mom would have forgiven him, eventually? Aunt Marie considered the question carefully. I think your mother was angrier at herself than at him. Angry that she still loved him after he left. Angry that she couldn't just move on. If she'd known the truth about why he left, that he did it to protect you all. She trailed off. Maybe she would have. I forgave him, Meadow said quietly. Does that make me a bad daughter to her memory? Oh, sweetheart, no. Aunt Marie cupped Meadow's face. It makes you human. It makes you someone who understood that people are complicated, that love and pain can coexist. Your mother loved you more than anything. She'd want you to be happy, to be whole. If forgiving your father did that, she'd understand. Later that evening, after the gallery cleared out, Michael and Meadow stood in front of the metal family tree, which had become the centerpiece of the show. 3 people asked to commission similar pieces, Meadow said, reviewing her notes. But I told them this design is personal. I'll create something unique for their families, but this tree is ours alone. Good, Michael said. Some things should stay sacred. Meadow leaned against him. Thank you for giving me the space to figure this out. I know I did it all backward, keeping secrets instead of trusting you. But somehow we got here anyway. We got here because we're stubborn and we love each other, Michael said. And because even when we screw up, we choose to fight for us. A month later, Meadow took a pregnancy test, then another, then 3 more, because she couldn't believe the results. Michael, she called from the bathroom. Michael, get in here. He rushed in, worried something was wrong. Meadow held up 5 positive pregnancy tests, all lined up on the counter. We're pregnant, she whispered. We're actually pregnant. Michael lifted her off her feet, spinning her around. We're going to be parents. They called their families, told their friends, and celebrated with quiet joy. That evening, they sat in the workshop, Meadow's hand on her still flat stomach. Our baby's going to grow up surrounded by art and creation, Meadow said. They'll see that it's okay to pursue your passion, that it's never too late to discover who you really are. And they'll know their grandfather's story, Michael added, how he made hard choices to protect his family, how he found his way back to his daughter, how love can survive even separation and secrets. Meadow picked up a small piece of metal. I want to make something for the baby, something they can keep forever. What are you thinking? A bracelet, silver, delicate, with their birth date and a tiny leaf from our family tree, a piece of our story they can carry with them. Over the next months, as Meadow's belly grew, so did her business. Thomas Kennedy Legacy Metalworks became known for exceptional craftsmanship and meaningful designs. Each piece Meadow created carried a story, and clients loved that personal touch. The workshop Michael had been worried would drive them apart actually brought them closer. He'd spend evenings in the workspace, handling paperwork while Meadow worked metal. They'd talk about their days, their dreams for their child, their hopes for the future. Meadow's pregnancy was healthy but challenging. Morning sickness gave way to fatigue, which gave way to backaches and swollen ankles. She had to modify how she worked, taking more breaks and avoiding the heaviest pieces. Robert visited regularly, checking on Meadow and admiring her growing collection of work. One afternoon, he brought a box of Thomas's old tools that he'd been saving. These were your father's, Robert said, opening the box. His first hammer, his favorite tongs, the measuring tools he made himself. I've been holding on to them, waiting for the right time to pass them on. Meadow lifted out each tool reverently. They were worn from years of use, but beautifully maintained. Her father's hands had held these same tools, had created art with them. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. This means everything. There's one more thing, Robert said, pulling out an envelope. Your father wrote you a letter before he died. He asked me to give it to you when the time was right. I think that time is now. Meadow's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in her father's handwriting. My dearest Meadow, it began. If you're reading this, Robert has decided you're ready. Ready to know that I loved you every day we were apart. Ready to understand that leaving was the hardest thing I ever did. Ready to carry on a legacy I thought I'd lost forever. By now, Robert has taught you the craft. You felt the heat of the forge, the satisfaction of shaping metal to your will. You understand why I love this work so much. It's honest. Metal doesn't lie. It responds to heat and force and skill. It becomes what you make it. I hope you'll create beautiful things, Meadow. But more than that, I hope you'll build a beautiful life. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let fear or pride keep you from the people you love. Don't wait until it's too late to say the things that matter. Tell your husband you love him every day. Tell your children their grandfather loved them, even though he never got to meet them. And forgive yourself for forgiving me. Your mother would want you to be happy. I know that with certainty. You have a gift, my daughter, not just for metalwork, but for transformation, for taking painful, complicated things and making them beautiful. That's alchemy. That's magic. That's art. Keep creating, keep loving, keep living fully and honestly. And know that wherever I am, I'm proud of you. Love always, Dad. Meadow sobbed as she finished reading. Michael held her while she cried, processing years of complicated emotions through tears. He knew, she finally said. He knew I'd have children someday. He knew I'd build this life. He had faith in you, Michael said, just like I do. Meadow carefully folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. I want to frame this. Hang it in the workshop where I can see it while I work. Perfect. 2 weeks before her due date, Meadow completed the baby bracelet. It was delicate silver, with tiny hammer marks showing it was handmade. A small leaf design matched the ones on the family tree. Inside, she'd engraved, "Legacy of Love." It's perfect, Michael said, examining the tiny piece. They're going to treasure this forever. I hope so. I hope they understand what it represents. All the love and pain and choices that led to them existing. Meadow went into labor on a Tuesday evening. Michael drove her to the hospital, both of them nervous and excited. 13 hours later, they welcomed their daughter into the world. She's perfect, Meadow whispered, holding the tiny baby. Absolutely perfect. She has your eyes, Michael said, tears running down his face. What should we name her? They'd discussed names for months but never decided. Now, looking at their daughter, Meadow knew. Margaret Thomas Kennedy, she said. Maggie, for short, after my mother and father, past and present, together in her. Margaret Thomas Kennedy, Michael repeated. It's perfect. She's perfect. We're perfect. A nurse took photos of them, exhausted new parents holding their daughter, love and wonder on their faces. Later, Meadow would create a metal frame for that photo, incorporating elements from both her mother's and father's stories. When they brought Maggie home, the metal family tree was waiting in the living room. Meadow stood in front of it, holding her daughter. See this? She said to the baby. This is your family. All the people who loved and fought and sacrificed so you could be here. Your grandmother Margaret, who raised me alone and taught me strength. Your grandfather Thomas, who loved from a distance and gave me this gift of creation. Your dad, who supports every crazy dream. And me, your mom, who will teach you that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. Michael put his arm around them both. And we'll add a new leaf for you. Little Maggie Kennedy, who brought us all together. Over the following weeks, as they adjusted to life with a newborn, Meadow would take breaks from feeding and diaper changes to work in the shop for short periods. She'd created a bassinet on wheels so Maggie could be nearby while she worked. Starting her education early, Michael joked, watching Meadow hammer metal while the baby slept nearby. Why not? She's going to grow up knowing that work and art and family all blend together, that you don't have to choose between passion and responsibility. You find a way to honor both. One afternoon when Maggie was 3 months old, Meadow set up a camera in the workshop. She filmed herself working on a commission piece while narrating the process. That evening, she edited it into a short video and posted it online with her father's story. The video went viral. People responded to the honesty of Meadow's journey, the secret reconciliation with her father, the 8 months of lies, the discovery and forgiveness, the birth of her daughter. Comments poured in from people dealing with their own complicated family relationships. Your story gave me courage to reach out to my estranged brother, one person wrote. I've been hiding my art from my spouse because I was afraid they'd think it was impractical. Your story inspired me to share it, wrote another. As someone who left my family to protect them, thank you for showing that reconciliation is possible, said a third. Meadow read the comments with tears in her eyes. Her personal pain, transformed into art and story, was helping others heal their own wounds. Your father would be so proud, Michael said, reading over her shoulder. Look how many lives you're touching. We're touching, Meadow corrected. None of this would have happened without you following me, confronting me, supporting me. You're part of this story too. A year after the truth came out, they celebrated their 13th wedding anniversary. This time, there were no secrets. They had dinner at home, Maggie sleeping peacefully upstairs, the metal family tree gleaming in the living room light. 13 years, Michael mused, 12 of them pretty normal, one of them completely insane. Meadow laughed. I prefer to think of it as 12 years of foundation building for 1 year of transformation. Fair point. So what's next for us? More secrets? More mysterious workshops? No more secrets, Meadow promised, but definitely more creation. I've been thinking about expanding, maybe opening a real gallery space, offering regular classes, building a community of artists. I love it. What can I do to help? Keep being you. Keep supporting my crazy dreams. Keep loving me even when I'm covered in soot and smell like a campfire. Michael pulled her close. I happen to love the campfire smell now. It smells like home, like truth, like us. They sat together on the couch, comfortable in the silence, watching the shadows play across the metal tree. Each leaf caught the light differently, creating patterns on the walls. You know what I realized? Meadow said eventually. All those nights I spent in the garage, all those hours of secret work, I thought I was hiding. But really, I was searching. Searching for a piece of myself I'd lost. Searching for connection with my father. Searching for purpose beyond the safe, practical path. And did you find it? Meadow looked around their home, at the metal art on the walls, at the baby monitor showing their sleeping daughter, at the man who'd loved her through lies and truth. I found more than I was looking for, she said. I found myself. I found forgiveness. I found a way to honor my past while building my future. And I found out that my husband loves me enough to follow me into the unknown and wait for me to find my way back. Michael kissed her forehead. Always. I'll always follow you, wait for you, believe in you. Even when I smell like smoke? Especially when you smell like smoke. Because that smell means you're creating, you're alive, you're becoming. They sat together as night fell, two people who'd navigated mystery and deception to find their way back to truth. The metal family tree stood nearby, a permanent reminder that love survives secrets, that art heals pain, and that sometimes the most beautiful things are forged in fire. Outside in the workshop, Meadow's current commission piece waited, a custom gate for a young couple's first home. Tomorrow she'd return to it, hammer in hand, carrying her father's legacy forward. But tonight, she was exactly where she needed to be. Home. With her family. With no more midnight mysteries to hide. Just truth, love, and the faint, lingering smell of smoke that had started it all.